All right, 17. Congratulations, you are at the end of Dracula. I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed reading and teaching it to you. The question now is, of course, do they catch Dracula? Do they stop him in time? So I'm going to pick it up. This is Mina Harker's Journal of October 31st. Assignment 17 runs from pages 515 until the end of the book, obviously. So let me just cue myself again. I'm sorry I lost it. And here we are, Mina Harker's Journal, 31st of October. Arrived at Varsity at noon. The professor tells me that this morning at dawn he could hardly hypnotize me at all, and all that I could say was dark and quiet. He is off now buying a carriage and horses. He says that he will later on try to buy additional horses so that we may be able to change them on the way. We have something more than 70 miles before us. The country is lovely and most interesting. If only we were under different conditions. How delightful it will be to see it all. If Jonathan and I were driving through it alone, what a pleasure it would be to stop and see people and learn something of their life and to fill our minds and memories with all the color and picturesqueness of the whole wild, beautiful country and the quaint people. But alas, later, Dr. Van Helsing has returned. He has got the carriage and horses. We are to have some dinner and to start in an hour. The landlady is putting us up a huge basket of provisions. It seems enough for a company of soldiers. The professor encourages her and whispers to me that it may be a week before we can get any food again. He has been shopping too and has sent home such a wonderful lot of fur coats and wraps and all sorts of warm things. There will not be any chance of our being cold. We shall soon be off. I'm afraid to think what may happen to us. We are truly in the hands of God. He alone knows what may be, and I pray him with all the strength of my sad and humble soul that he will watch over my beloved husband, that whatever may happen, Jonathan may know that I loved him and honored him more than I can say, and that my latest and truest thought will always be for him. Oh, how very nice of her. She's like losing her soul, and she's thinking about her husband. What a wonderful lady. Let's continue. Chapter 27, Mina Harker's Journal, November 1st. All day long we have traveled and at a good speed. The horses seem to know that they are being kindly treated, for they go willingly their full stage at best speed. We have now had so many changes and find the same thing so constantly that we are encouraged to think that the journey will be an easy one. Dr. Van Helsing is laconic. He tells the farmers that he is hurrying to Beach Streets and pays them well to make the exchange of horses. We get hot soup or coffee or tea, and off we go. It is a lovely country, full of beauties of all imaginable kinds, and the people are brave and strong and simple and seem full of nice qualities. They are very, very superstitious. I mean, hello, they live in the same town with a vampire. In the first house where we stopped, when the woman who served us saw the scar in my forehead, she crossed herself and put out 2 fingers towards me to keep off the evil eye. I believe they went to the trouble of putting an extra amount of garlic into our food, and I can't abide garlic. Ever since then, I have taken care not to take off my hat or veil, and so have escaped their suspicions. We are traveling fast, and as we have no driver with us to carry tales, we go ahead of scandal. But I dare say that fear of the evil eye will follow hard behind us all the way. The professor seems tireless. All day he would not take any rest, though he made me sleep for a long spell. At sunset time, he hypnotized me, and he says I answered as usual, darkness, lapping water, and creaking wood. So our enemy is still on the river. I am afraid to think of Jonathan, but somehow I have now no fear for him or for myself. I write this whilst we wait in the farmhouse for the horses to be ready. Dr. Van Helsing is sleeping. Poor dear, he looks very tired and old and gray, but his mouth is set as firmly as a conqueror's. Even in his sleep, he is intense with resolution. When we have well started, I must make him rest whilst I drive. I shall tell him that we have days before us, and he must not break down when most of all his strength will be needed. All is ready. We are off shortly. November 2 morning. I was successful and we took turns driving all night. Now the day is on us, bright though cold. There is a strange heaviness in the air. I say heaviness for want of a better word. I mean that it oppresses us both. It is very cold, and only our warm furs keep us comfortable. At dawn, Van Helsing hypnotized me. He says I answered darkness, creaking wood, and roaring water, so the river is changing as they ascend. I do hope that my darling will not run any chance of danger more than need me, but we are in God's hands. 2nd of November, night, all day long driving. The country gets wilder as we go, and the great spurs of the Carpathians, which at Varestes seem so far from us and so low on the horizon, now seem to gather around us and tower in front. We both seem in good spirits. I think we make an effort each to cheer the other. In the doing so, we cheer ourselves. Dr. Van Helsing says that by morning we shall reach the Borgo Pass. The houses are very few here now, and the professor says that the last horse we got will have to go on with us, as we may not be able to change. He got 2 in addition to the 2 we changed, so that now we have a rude 4 in hand. The dear horses are patient and good, and they give us no trouble. We are not worried with other travelers, and so even I can drive. We shall get to the pass in daylight. We do not want to arrive before. I guess what they mean by we are not worried with other travelers, not that anybody would bother them, but that there's no other travelers. It's like an empty road. I mean, not for nothing. Who would be traveling around this place where, the wolves are controlled by some psychotic man who, eats people and steals their babies and then kills the mothers? We know the story. We are not worried with other travelers, and so even I can drive. We shall get to the pass in daylight. We do not want to arrive before. So we take it easy, and I have each a long rest and turn. Okay, so they know that he has to travel through this pass in order to get to his castle. They know that he's back on the river. They know he has to be carried in his coffin into, if it's daylight hours, of course. I mean, at night, they did say he could turn and do it a different way, but he doesn't think he's being followed, so he's going to take it the easy way. And I just want to point out what a weird bummer that is to be a vampire, to be that old. And during the daylight, I mean, just think about that. When you're in that coffin, anybody can just open it up and basically stake you and kill you. So even though you have all that power, that's what Van Helsing was talking about, he still has these immense weaknesses. So they're going to try to get to the pass and catch him. And stake him, kill him, burn him, cut his head off, fill it with some garlic, sticking the stake through the ground, all that fun stuff. Rose on the coffin. I'm trying to think if there's any others off my chain on my top of my head. I'm going to shut up though. I'm going to read. Oh, what tomorrow will bring us. Is that where I am? Yes, we shall get to the pass in the daylight. We do not want to arrive before. So we take it easy and have each a long rest and turn. Oh, what will tomorrow will bring to us. We go to seek the place where my poor darling suffered so much. God grant that we may be guided aright, and that he will deign to watch over my husband and those dear to us both, and who are in such deadly peril. I mean, think about it. They had Jonathan is on his way back to the castle. I bet you he didn't think he would end up back there again. As for me, I am not worthy in his sight. Alas, I am unclean to his eyes, and shall be until he may deign to let me stand forth in his sight as one of those who have not incurred his wrath. And again, she's pointing to the fact that she can have nothing to do with God right now, can touch no godly things. They actually burn into her flesh and burn her. And she's hoping that she can be back in his graces. Memoranda by Abraham Van Helsing, November 4th. This to my old and true friend, John Seward, MD of Purfleet, London, in case I may not see him. I guess, you know what? I just had a weird thought, not a weird thought, but a thought. I mean, think about this. We in life, we don't know for sure what happens in the afterlife. We don't know. I know I certainly don't know, right? I won't say what you know, but I know that I'm not going to know these things until after I die, right? Think about these people, though, in the story. When you have the vampire legend, specifically Mina, she had this thing burned into her head, this thing of God. So she actually now has proof burned into her flesh that God exists. And this whole heaven and hell thing becomes much more real for her now, because she knows for a fact that she can't touch a Bible. She can't do anything to do with that. So she knows it's real. Now, remember, this is just fiction. But in the book, think about what that means to her as far as how scary that would be, knowing that she is destined for hell forever and that it is real. If this is real on her forehead, then that is real down below as well. It's pretty crazy. So it adds to the excitement of the end of the book, I guess is what I'm saying. Remember, fiction. 1 and 2, never ever would I tell you what to believe religiously. All I just request people, ladies and gentlemen, just be good people. All right, let's continue. And I write by fire, which all the night. All right, November 4th. This to my old friend. Is that where I am? His sight is one of those who have not incurred his wrath. Yes, memorandum by Abraham Van Helsing. November 4th. This to my old and true friend, John Seward, MD of Purfleet, London, in case I may not see him. It may explain. It is morning, and I write by a fire which all the night I have kept alive, Madam Mina aiding me. All right, so now we're getting Van Helsing's perspective. It is cold, so cold. So cold that the gray, heavy sky is full of snow, which when it falls will settle for all winter as the ground is hardening to receive it. It seems to have affected Madam Mina. She has been so heavy of head all day that she was not like herself. She sleeps and sleeps and sleeps. She, who is usual so alert, have done literally nothing all day. She even have lost her appetite. She make no entry into her little diary. She who writes so faithful at every pause. Something whispered to me that all is not well. All right, so something whispered to me, Andy Kenny in Montclair, New Jersey right now, while I read this, that this is nearing the end for her, that she might even be turning. Maybe she doesn't even have to drink blood. Maybe it's just a matter of time before she turns if they don't kill Dracula first. Now, remember, I do know, I'm just pretending that I don't. Remember that all vampire legends are different, and that's, some people find that annoying, but most people find that cool. Now, you can write your own story, make your vampires do whatever you want. You can make them time warp for all you want, although that would probably be pretty weird. Let's continue. Something whispered to me that all is not well. However, tonight she is more vif. Her long sleep all day have refreshed and restored her, for now she is all sweet and bright as ever. At sunset, I try to hypnotize her, but alas, with no effect. The power has grown less and less with each day, and tonight it fails me altogether. Well, God's will be done, whatever it may be, and whithersoever it may lead. I guess at this point, it really doesn't matter, because they've done everything they've done, and there's no real turning back at this point. Now to the historical. For as Madame Mina writes, not in her stenography, I must, in my cumbrous old fashion, that so each day of us may not go unrecorded. We go to the Borgo Pass. Hold on. We go to the Borgo, sorry, I lost my spot. We go to the Borgo Pass just after sunrise yesterday morning. When I saw the signs of dawn, I got ready for the hypnotism. We stopped our carriage and got down so that there might be no disturbance. I made a couch with furs, and Madame Mina, lying down, yielded herself as usual, but more slow and more short time than ever to the hypnotic sleep. As before came the answer, darkness and the swirling of water. Then she woke, bright and radiant, and we go on our way and soon reach the pass. I guess that is good news. They now still know he's still on the boat, so he's still behind them. At this time and place, she become all on fire with zeal. Some new guiding power be in her manifested, for she point to a road and say, this is the way. How you know it, I ask. Of course I know it, she answered, and with a pause add, have not my Jonathan traveled it and wrote of his travels? At first I think somewhat strange, but soon I see that there be only one such byroad. It is used but little and very different from the coach road from the Bukovina to B Streets, which is more wide and hard and more of use. We came down this road. When we meet other ways, not always were we sure that they were roads at all, for they be neglect and light snow had fallen, and the horses know and they only. I give rein to them, and they go on so patient. By and by we find all the things which Jonathan have note in that wonderful diary of him. Then we go on for long, long hours and hours. At the first, I tell Madame Mina to sleep. She try, and she succeed. She sleep all the time, till at the last I feel myself to suspicious grow, and attempt to wake her. But she sleep on, and may not wake her, though I try. I do not wish to try too hard lest I harm her, for I know that she have suffered much, and sleep at times be all in all to her. I think I drowse myself, for all of a sudden I feel guilt as though I have done something. I find myself bolt up with the reins in my hand, and the good horses go along jog, jog, just as ever. I look down and find Madame Mina still asleep. It is now not far off sunset time, and over the snow the light of the sun flow big and yellow flood, so that we throw a great long shadow on where the mountain rises so steep. For we are going up, and all is oh so wild and rocky, as though we're the end of the world. Okay, so they are traveling up towards his castle. So they are now completely in his lands and his lair. I'm trying to think, does he have, I mean, he lived alone, right? He did have all those worker people. I don't know if they're there. They're not working anymore, so they probably are gone from there. Does he have anybody else in the castle? No servants, but is there anybody else in that castle that you recall? I'm going to read. Then I arouse Madame Mina. This time she wake with not much trouble, and then I try to put her to hypnotic sleep, but she sleep not, being as though I were not. Still I try, till at once I find her and myself in dark, so I look around and find that the sun has gone down. Madame Mina laugh, and I turn and look at her. She is not quite awake, and looks so well as I have never seen her since that night at Carfax when we first entered the Count's house. All right, stop. So she's sick all day and not doing well, but when the sun goes down, she pops up and she feels and looks great, like her blood is all back in her face and she looks all happy and healthy, but she laughs. I'm a little freaked out now. Van Helsing, dude, you might be in a little trouble. I am amazed and not at ease then, but she is so bright and tender and thoughtful for me that I forget all fear. Okay, so she's nice. I light a fire, for we have brought supply of wood with us, and she prepared food while I undo the horses and set them, tethered in shelter, to feed. Then when I return to the fire, she had my supper ready. I go to help her, but she smiles and tells me that she has eaten already, that she was so hungry that she would not wait. Did you hear that? Who said that before in the beginning of this novel? I seem to remember Count Dracula telling Jonathan, I just ate an hour ago, buddy. You eat, you fatten up. I go to help her, but she smiles and tells me that she has eaten already, that she was so hungry that she would not wait. I like it not, and I have grave doubts. But I fear to frighten her, and so I am silent of it. She helped me, and I eat alone, and then we wrap in fur and lie beside the fire, and I tell her to sleep while I watch. But presently I forget all of watching, and when I suddenly remember that I watch, I find her lying quiet but awake and look at me with so bright eyes. Once, twice more the same occur, and I get much sleep still before morning. When I wake, I try to hypnotize her, but alas, though she shut her eyes obedient, she may not sleep. The sun rises up, and then sleep comes to her too late, but so heavy that she will not wake. I have to lift her up and place her sleeping in the carriage when I have harnessed the horses and made all ready. Madam still asleep, and she looks in her sleep more healthy and more redder than before. And I like it not. And I am afraid. I am afraid of all things, even to think, but I must go on my way. The stake we place for is life and death. Or more than these, and we must not flinch. It's more than life or death, because remember, they're talking about eternal souls. I just want to point out, I think it's quite obvious now that Mina is turning, right? And that last night, every time he woke up, he found her staring at him. I think she's fighting herself from eating him. I think she's fighting a battle of will. And remember, Mina has a pretty strong will and a strong faith in God. So I think she's could hopefully keep fighting it. But Van Helsing is in kind of trouble. He's traveling with a vampire, possibly. 5 November morning. Let me be accurate in everything, for though you and I have seen some strange things together, you may at first think that I, Van Helsing, am mad. That the many horrors and the so long strain on nerves has all but last turn on my brain. Oh, nice, something happened, right? And it's so crazy that he thinks that people won't believe him, even the guys who have seen all this. So let's find out what happened. All yesterday we traveled, always getting closer to the mountains and moving into a more and more wild and desert land. There are great frowning precipices and much falling water, and nature seems to have held some time or carnival. Madam Mina still sleeps and sleeps. And though I did have hunger and appeased it, I could not waken her, even for food. I began to fear that the fatal spell of the place was upon her, tainted as she is with that vampire baptism. Oh, that's an interesting theory, that it wasn't a time thing, that it wasn't, if they had stayed in London, she would be turning as well right now. He thinks it's because they're getting closer and closer to Transylvania and to the castle, where the vampires' power is the strongest, because that's where the dirt is, right? That's the homeland. That's very interesting. Well, I said to myself, if it be that she sleeps all day, it shall also be that I do not sleep at night. As we travel on the rough road, for a road of an ancient and perfect kind there was, I held down my head and slept. So he's very smart. He realizes if it's going to be a crazy night tonight, then I should sleep as well while we're riding the horses. And luckily for him, they also described to us before that these are very good and nice horses, and they know which way to go, and there's only one road. So he's able to just put down his head and get some rest. And I waked with a sense of guilt and of time past, and found Madam Mina still sleeping and the sun low down. But all was indeed changed. The frowning mountain seems further away, and we were near the top of a steep rising hill, on the summit of which was such a castle as Jonathan telleth in his diary. At once I exulted and feared, for now, for good or ill, the end was near. I woke, so they're there, they're at the castle, they can see it. I woke Madam Mina and again tried to hypnotize her, but alas, unveiling till too late. Then before the great dark came upon us, for even after down sun, the heavens reflected the gone sun on the snow, and all was for a time in a great twilight. I took out the horses and fed them in what shelter I could. Then I made a fire. And near it I made Madam Mina, now awake and more charming than ever, sit comfortable amid a rug. I got ready food, would not eat, simply saying that she had not hunger. I did not press her, knowing her unavailingness. But I myself ate, for I must needs now be strong for all. Then with the fear on me of what might be, I drew a ring so big for her comfort around where Madam Mina sat. And over the ring I passed some of the wafer, and I broke it so fine so that all was well guarded. She sat still all the time, so still as one dead, and she grew whiter and even whiter till the snow was not more pale, and no words she said. Wait, she grew whiter and even whiter till the snow was not more pale. Dag, so she is actually paler than the snow. Yeah, she is pretty much turned, but she's still fighting it, which is awesome, and no words she said. But when I drew near, she clung to me, and I could know that the poor soul shook from her head to feet with a tremor that was a pain to feel. All right, so did you see what he did, by the way? He put a ring, he drew a ring in the dirt around them. I don't know, I figure about 12 feet, 10 or 12 feet. And they're going to sit inside this circle. And what he did was he took the wafer, the stuff that he had burned her head with. So we know that this stuff repels vampires pretty darn well. And he broke little pieces of it and he sprinkled it all around in that circle. So he's making himself what he hopes to be like a force field of a sort, like, a barrier that and I don't know who they is, but remember, he's right next to the castle. So he's in the land of the vampires. Maybe Dracula could turn into a bat and fly over at any time. Let's not forget that. But there could be others. He doesn't know anything about this place. Actually, I'm sorry. They read Jonathan's journal. So they do know, both of them, that there are, and you should remember this as well, there are 3 vampires living in that castle. Remember, Dracula's wives do live there. So they could be a danger to him as well. We don't know. Who knows? Who knows where they are? They could just be passed out in a cave somewhere. But you never know. So I'm going to stop there. I'm on the page 524. Yes, I'm on page 524. You're going to read until the end, which is page 542, and see what happens. This is it. This is the end. Enjoy it. Have a nice day.